Hi folks, it's Ben. Today I'm working on my 1994 Chevy Caprice station wagon. It has a brake problem. Symptoms include the brake light being on, the front fluid reservoir of the brake system being depleted, and no brakes. So obviously there's a leak in the system. Now front reservoir means that the rear brake system is actually leaking something because the car's divided in two. If you recall, and I'll link to the video right now, I did replace the brake line from about the firewall all the way back to the rubber hose point above the rear axle there. So I have a feeling that one of the little side lines that goes to either side of the rear wheels, one of those lines has rusted out and failed. Here we are at the reservoir. Obviously the front one is down. The front one's connected to this line here. Now just below it here, you have each part of the master brake cylinder comes into this little block here, and the wire in the middle, that's your brake switch. When it detects that there's a pressure difference between the two, aka one of them has failed, it'll trip the brake light. It'll automatically reset when you can actually apply the brakes and the switch doesn't activate again. It'll actually clear the light. But I have the light. This is the rear brake system, and it's obviously drained, so let's go back and see. Okay, crawled into the car, put some brake fluid in it, pumped the brake a couple times, looking for a leak. All my old connections are good, all the rusty line in the back is good. Believe it or not, the drip's coming from the front. Kind of confused me for a second. Pop open the hood, lift up here, and come to find out what's happened is from the brake switch to the ABS module, that's where my line rusted out. The fix I've decided to do, instead of actually finding what size fitting that is, and finding what size fitting it is on the ABS, which is probably metric and an unknown, threads per inch, I'm going to just splice the line where it's broken. So what I'm going to do is take a cut from here, cut the unit here, bend it around, or actually maybe just cut it here and make my new tube bend around. And I'm also going to cut a good section of the ABS over here and bring it up and put my fitting just in between the two. And I'll use that a long section right here, which is obviously way too long, but I will cut it to size and shape it to size. I have two unions, and what I'll do is on the car I'll go ahead and put two more flare fittings on that brake line, somewhere here and somewhere towards the ABS, and that way I'll just be able to cinch everything together and our repair will be complete. And at a later date I'll just rip out the old line so it doesn't confuse anyone as to why it's leaking. First thing I'm going to do is cut this line about here, then I'm actually going to take it off the brake switch here, just because it's easier to put a flare on it, in a fitting on it, off the car. There it goes. The line was separated. I ended up putting a fitting here. I pinch cut that, so that doesn't go anywhere right now. And it's loose right now, so I can maneuver it around. I took my long piece and I put a 180 in it. You can do it using a piece of wood, although I would suggest using a tubing bending tool just so it's prettier. The key is just remember, don't make any super pinch points, just so that fluid does have to move back and forth in this. I put a 180 in it, so when I attach it approximately this way, we get a good run up. And I'll probably have it up some. We get a good run up to the ABS module out up here. And I'm going to move the camera so we can better see that. This is about the best shot as I get from this viewpoint here. Here's my rear line ABS going into the ABS module, which is here. The line's kind of meh. It's not great, but it's nowhere near failing. So I'm going to try to cut it as close as I can down here. Loosen this fitting and then bring it up. Use to make sure we cut the right one. It's a little tight right here. That's why I don't want to do the fitting down here. I can even squeeze this thing. Okay, so I got it cut. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. This 1/4 inch line's pretty thick, FYI. So it can take kind of a beating. I'm going to loosen it now. Pop. There we go. Now that's loose enough to maneuver up. I got it cut, but with no liquid coming out of this thing, I don't think I have any fear of it actually having any liquid in it. So I'm going to finish taking it off and do the flare on the bench. Alrighty, so here's my new piece. It's got its union already on it. I have the union here, although nothing's secured yet. And then finally my made piece, which I didn't film, I'm sorry. But I already done the 180 back here. And that fits up nice. And then what I've done is I've come up and come down. Not the most beautiful routing, honestly, but I saw a guy on the Impala SS forums do it too, so I'm not too worried about it. So we have that. We're not going to hit anything. We're staying away from the suspension. When we're all said and done, we'll be away from the steering here. So now it's a matter of just tightening everything down and filling the baby up full of fluid again and looking for leaks. My connection to the ABS, my new fitting with the union into a standard threading, 1/4-inch pipe all the way back to the brake switch where I did the same thing. So I used the same old fittings on the old equipment and new fittings for the new stuff. I'm going to bleed it now. I'm going to bleed it off the ABS down there. That's the farthest point in the system. Hopefully I don't have to bleed the rear brakes. I'm hoping I don't have to bleed the rear brakes, but if I do, I will. But I won't shorten this video. I have it in another video. But if there are any problems, I'll let you know. And other than that, there's a rusty brake line replacement. It's not the first. It's not going to be the last, unfortunately. It's a rust belt car. But that's how I repaired the brake line on this 1994 Chevy Caprice station wagon.